How's it going, creeps? Welcome to episode 10 of Cinema Creep, a Black Mass Films podcast where we dissect all things vile, disgusting, and downright terrifying in the world of horror cinema. I'm Justin.
And I'm Andrew, and
we are fashionably late on this episode.
Yeah. Well, see, this is one that I've been wanting to do, Justin, excited about to do for a long time, and also it's one of those episodes that covers a movie that is so pivotal, and or a franchise that's so pivotal in horror, history that we just have to do it and get it out of the way to move on to anything else.
Right. Well, I mean, this was supposed to be done like a couple weeks ago, but in our defense, there's been a lot going on. Of course, here at Cinema Creep, we are not just podcasters. As much as we enjoy putting the show together, Black Mass Films that presents this podcast, that's our film production company. We are horror filmmakers. We both write. I'm a director. Andrew's also a director. He's a cinematographer. I dabble in the world of cinematography. But just through and through, we're filmmakers. And there will be an episode coming up on this, so I don't want to linger on this topic too long. But we've been trying to get some projects back in the works, get some productions rolling. And that's one of the main reasons that these episodes have been so delayed. We've been doing some pre-production planning, some location scouting, stuff like that. So we apologize for the delay, but we'll slowly start getting back on track with these. And
we're back. We're back.
We're back, baby.
Yeah. So
the buzz is back. If only this was a chainsaw episode.
Yeah, the boys are back in town.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, Justin, what did you watch this week or over this past couple weeks? What were some of the major things that you watched and you enjoyed?
Okay, so given that we have had such a lengthy break, I'll save this one thing for last because we both watched it and it's a pretty big deal. I'm pretty sure if any of you are listening and you're major horror fans and you subscribe to Shudder, you've watched this particular thing. But basically, I just used this time to catch up on things that were on my watch list that I just hadn't really got around to watching. Primarily Crawl. You told me a couple weeks ago to check that out. I finally did. For what it was good. Like, I've seen mixed reviews about it. I mean, sure, it's a creature feature that is, a creature feature technically. I mean, it's more of like a natural disaster kind of film mixed in with, wildlife. To me, it fits one of those kind of movies like, what was the name of that movie where the family is out in the middle of like Africa and they're trapped in the vehicles and the lions are trying to get them? Have you ever seen that?
I don't know. No.
Well, so it's that kind of movie. I think it's based on a true story, but don't quote me on that. But so to me, it's a horror movie, but it's also not. Like, this one was definitely filmed much more like a horror film than some of the other movies I've seen like that. So,
this was,
and the other. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say this was good. I mean, like you said, it's sort of a creature feature. It's no different than Jaws, right? Jaws is a superior movie, but just for its classicness. But it's the same thing. It's just a creature that's this overdone monster. It's an animal, right? That has super abilities that's going after people. So, I mean, it is a creature
an apex
feature
predator.
Its sense, but. I think it's so good just for the director, like Alexander Aja. That's the dude that he did High Tension and he did The Hills Have Eyes remake. And we've talked about him before. He's a super skilled director and, just that shows in this. And then with the writing too, like we talked about this a little bit of how this movie was able to actually build suspense. It took a subject that is completely, unrealistic, and it made you actually feel like it could potentially happen, right? So anytime a movie does that and it puts you in puts you in the mind space like, oh, well, maybe these alligators could come up in this crawl space and eat multiple people and have a never ending appetite, as you said, Justin, and do that whole thing. It's a solid movie. It's like a fun movie to sit down and watch. Like you could watch it with your young kids and it's gonna please.
Well, they're not gonna like alligators anymore, but
I mean, it's gonna please them and it's gonna please adults, So, interesting story though, real quick, concerning alligators. So, down in the depths of Georgia, if any of you guys are from Georgia, when I was a wee lad, my family went for a little boating trip. If you're a family member of mine, you may remember this, in Okefenokee Swamp down in Georgia. And I remember quite vividly our boat getting attacked by an alligator. Now, what happened was we had pulled over to a bank. My dad got out of the boat and he went to go piss. And when he did, I don't know what happened. Maybe he pissed on a nest. Maybe an alligator saw him or something. But I had a wooden sword that I got from the gift shop. And we got back in the boat after my dad did his thing, and we started cruising away from the shore. Next thing you know, an alligator started going fucking wild on the boat, and I just remember my wooden sword. I don't remember which adult it was in the boat, but somebody yanked it from me, and they were beating the shit out of the alligator with it, and we were beating it with the oars. It was fucking frightening. So yeah, so there's my crawl story. Yeah, so,
this movie affected me.
Yeah. I've got PTSD. Or CTSD. Anyways, what else did you watch and enjoy this week? You said you watched a couple things, so what else you got?
Basically, I kind of did what you did the last time we did an episode. I just watched a bunch of older stuff. I watched some John Carpenter stuff. I watched a lot of behind the scenes stuff on like The Thing. Now that wasn't like a documentary. It was just basically finding like a bunch of snippets on YouTube of like, behind the scenes of the making of The Thing and interviews with the cast from the John Carpenter's version of that. And then I randomly enough watched, you can find this on YouTube. It's a making of featurette of Halloween 4. Nice. A lot of interesting stuff went on during production of that.
Nice.
Writer switch ups, studios wanting this changed, that changed, and
I love
just a lot of controversies.
BTS, and I mean, anytime you can get, so like everybody, Justin, we talk about this. We both collect VHS. That is the superior format because, to me, it is the most just rugged, and it's just there's something about it, right? Just the nostalgia factor of it. But honestly, like when you think about it. I have a special place in my heart for the bastard son that is DVD. And that's because when I got old enough to actually buy my own movies, I bought DVDs, and that was my thing, right? Like go to Walmart every payday and get 1 or 2 horror films. And that's what started my collection. I mean, when I was a kid, of course, we had VHSs, but I wasn't collecting horror VHSs, right? I was watching them here and there, but I wasn't collecting them. I wasn't buying them with my own money. They were just around because my parents, my weird uncle would have them or somebody would have them, right? Like they were just around, and then even friends and their parents, when I was younger. But when I got old enough to buy my own shit, it was DVDs. And if you're into DVDs, a lot of times those have those director's cuts, those director commentaries or actor commentaries on them, right?
Oh, yeah, dude. Well, like, I've got like a wall of VHS tapes behind me and the VHS is here. But like, I've got these DVDs of The Evil Dead and like, let's just like on the back, it's like audio commentary. That's one thing that I actually like, sitting like if I've seen a movie like 1,000 times, it's like how cool, growing up and you love these movies and then you get this DVD and you're like, I can watch this entire film with commentary by Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
that's
like
groovy.
You're sitting there watching the movie with him. Yeah, the behind the scenes footage and outtakes, the theatrical trailers, TV spots, all of that stuff. So, I mean, DVDs are good too. Plus, now that I've also moved into collecting Blu-rays over the last couple of years,
right,
it makes collecting DVDs that much cooler because now that's also kind of like a vintage thing. Now, it's like DVDs.
Yeah, right? Like people are like, what's a DVD? Now, the only thing about DVDs that sucks is like when you get an older horror film, right? And they do like a bad film scan, right? And then it's just so dark, you can't read like the text. Like I have Driller Killer. I know. I keep talking about Driller Killer. I haven't shut up about it for like the last 72 hours. But I have Driller Killer on DVD, right? That's one of the things I watched we're going to talk about in a minute over this past week. I totally forgot I had the DVD, and I was going through my DVD collection and found it. And I was like, oh, shit, I forgot I had this. And it is such a bad film scan of Driller Killer. But, like it would look better if you watched it on VHS. Or watched like a ripped upload to YouTube, but it's just
so. What you're saying though is that Black Mass Films needs to acquire the distribution rights for Driller Killer.
Listen, what needs to happen, and if anybody is out there listening, you guys know how we feel over here at Black Mass Films about remakes. Some are great, most are not. But if I could remake one horror film, and they said, okay, out of every horror movie ever made, you can only remake one. You can have total rights to it. It would be Driller Killer. I feel that strong about the movie. It's not my favorite horror movie. It's not even the top 10. But I feel that story is so strong and could be, tweaked just a little bit, right? Like keep the same synopsis, keep the same storyline, but just tweak it a little bit, tell it a little bit better, and, just redone. Because I think when remakes are done right, it's because the original film, one, didn't have the budget, or two, didn't actually have, maybe the direction or, something. Maybe the cast was wrong, which I love the original Driller Killer, but I'm just saying, like, if it had maybe a little bit more of a budget or something and was tweaked just a little bit, it would be fucking, like, phenomenal. Because if you've ever seen it, guys, I'm going to hop right into this, Justin. Driller Killer's from 1979, right? Synopsis is: an artist slowly goes insane while struggling to pay his bills, while working on his paintings and care for his two female roommates, which leads him taking to the streets of New York after dark and randomly killing derelicts with a power drill. So he basically finds out that he has all these bills due. His roommates aren't helping him pay, and he's an artist, and he's struggling to basically pay his bills. And so he's trying to sell this painting to this, I guess this guy that runs a museum or something. I don't know. He does like something. And the guy is not wanting to give him an advance on the painting. And so he's working his ass off trying to get this painting done. And he lives in this apartment building where he has a superintendent that's kind of sketchy, kind of shitty. And there's a punk band that lives in that same like apartment building that never shuts the fuck up. They're always playing all hours of the night. His two female roommates are obsessed with the punk band. They're like, oh, they're so great. But the guy, Abel Ferrara, the guy that, well, no, is that Abel Ferrara plays the main character, right? I think. Abel Ferrara is the one that wrote it. The guy that, or Abel Ferrara directed it, my bad. The guy that plays the main character, I don't remember his fucking name. But anyways, so he's obsessed with his painting, and he can't concentrate because this punk band is loud all hours of the night. And his two female roommates, they're all about this band. They never shut the fuck up about them, and it's driving him mad. So he ends up having all these like weird like hallucinations about being bathed in blood and all this weird shit. And he just goes out with a power drill and starts killing homeless people. Oh, I thought so. Yeah. See, so yeah, he did direct it, and he played the main character. Yeah, I thought I was right. But so Driller Killer, that is the movie I want to remake if I ever could. And I researched this, Justin, probably 2012 about it. Because I was like, I should just redo it and put it on YouTube, make my own version of it, right? Nothing official. And I think at one point in time, somebody tried to buy the rights to it. Something happened to where the deal could never be worked out. And I think that's as far as I ever heard. And then it just kind of, that deal fizzled out. So What's up, Nicholas St. John? I need those rights to Driller Killer. Let me bring your story back to its glory, to the masses.
Yeah. I'm glad I looked and turned my microphone back on. I muted it. So if for those of you who are wondering why I mouthed something to him there, it was because I was letting him know that he was right. He not only directed it, but he did star in it. So, well, before we hop into, like your last pick and then the thing that we both watched, one last thing I did check out. I was talking a couple episodes back. I was at Walmart. Unfortunately, had to go in and grab some things, and that's when I saw, VFW and Snatchers on DVD.
Did you snatch it?
I finally watched Snatchers. I snatched it. I finally checked out Snatchers. 2019. Let's see. It was directed by Steven Seeders and Benji Kleeman. Also written by those two. I was not impressed by this at all.
No.
No. So the synopsis is, according to IMDb, is after status-obsessed teen Sarah has sex for the first time, she wakes up the next day 9 months pregnant with an alien. So this movie, to me,
that sounds fucking rad, though.
It does, and that's why I was like, okay, even like the front cover. So what I expected this to be was like a movie like Juno. Because even though I love horror, I'm a sucker for those kind of movies, like those weird, like Michael Cera kind of movies, like Scott Pilgrim and
Michael Cera
Juno. And, right. Well, even if it's not Scott or Michael Cera, like, Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, like those little like
Napoleon Dynamite
hipster movies, quote unquote. But so I was like, okay, this looks like it's somebody like took Juno and then like Night of the Creeps or something and put it together, which sadly it's like that's the idea they probably had and then they just failed to execute. They even tried to like make it meta and make have the self-realization of, hey, this is like a weird haunted or like a horror Juno, because there's even a line referencing Juno in the movie. So basically, she has sex with her boyfriend, who went on like spring break to Mexico, and he comes back, and he's completely changed. He's like all about sex now, and he's a complete and total douchebag. And then she like has sex with him for the first time. And he transfers like this alien parasite to her. So it's almost like It Follows and Juno had a baby. And so she wakes up pregnant and gives birth to this thing, but there's really two of them, and then they start like killing everybody, and then there's like they try to give you some character development because there's like a little bit of an arc between the main character and her mother, and they like are supposed to have these like heartfelt interactions, and it's just everything like, I guess as far as like all the technical aspects of making a film, like this is good. Like there's nothing, it's not like cheaply, it doesn't look cheap. Like some of the effects are good. The creatures are, practical effects. For the most part, I do think, but it fails to execute in the story department.
Was it just the story or was the acting bad too? I mean, I'm looking at screenshots of it.
The acting wasn't even really that bad. The only guy whose acting bothered me was the boyfriend, because he was supposed to act like just a complete and total tool, which I couldn't tell if it was just him doing a really good job of acting like a tool with an IQ of like 4, or if he's just a really bad actor.
Well,
but, I mean, the rest of the acting.
I mean, looking at his stuff, he's been in like, it doesn't mean anything, but he has a good amount of credits to his name. So, 20, but, so it's, I mean, it could just be bad acting. Who knows? I have no idea. I hadn't seen it yet.
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, the acting didn't throw me off really. It was just the story beats were kind of weird, or just like, I don't know, something was just off about the whole thing. I mean, it's something I would watch it again, like for fun, like showing people. But
yeah, well,
I give it 4.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I probably would watch. Just looking at the cover, it's nothing that draws my attention. So, but I do.
But you see what I mean? Like it looks like that kind. Like it looks like something that would be like.
Yeah.
It looks like Juno and It Follows, and I'm like, okay, I can dig this, and then it's like, no.
Well, hit and a miss, huh?
It was a miss.
Yeah. Well, another fun campy movie that I watched, guys, is a little gem from 1979 that you should show your grandmother, show your child. It is called Drive-In Massacre. It is, the synopsis says, 2 police detectives try to catch a serial killer who is stalking a rural California drive-in theater, randomly killing people with a sword. So, I know you're thinking to yourself right now, God damn it, that sounds so rad. It is. It's pretty okay, right? It's pretty okay. It is not like as gnarly as it should be with the name Drive-In Massacre. You know, like you think, wow, that's going to be incredible. It's from 79. It's in that grindhouse period. It's all right. It's good. It's solid. It has some good kills in it, but it doesn't have a ton of gore. I mean, there's a dude that gets his head fucking chopped off with a sword when he's reaching out to get his, you know how the old school drive-ins, you didn't just pull up and turn your radio to the station they told you. You would pull up and you'd grab the speaker, hang it on your window, right? This dude's reaching out his window to grab that, and he gets his fucking head chopped off. So, you know, it's got some cool stuff like that. But it's not nearly like Drive-In Massacre like you would think. So, interesting fact was, the script was written in a single week. So, Black Mass style, Justin.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
but they wrote it in a week. But how much pre-production did they have?
Yeah,
like preparation.
Yeah, how many reshoots did they do is what I want to know. But yeah, so let's move on to what we both watched because
this was fun.
Yeah, it was.
So that would be the Shudder original documentary In Search of Darkness. So I had been waiting for this to come out. You know, they leaked like a trailer for it. And then they were like, oh, by the way, this is going to be like a 4-hour documentary. But it was worth it. Now, I did watch it over the course of like 2 days. But so basically this is an exploration of 80s horror movies through the perspective of the actors, directors, producers, and special effects craft people who made them and their impact on contemporary cinema. And it was written and directed by, is that how you say that? It's David Weiner, or is it David Weiner?
I don't know anything about the guy, but that is his name. DW.
It was written by a dude. It was written by good old DW.
DW. So Mr. Weiner. I'm gonna say it's Weiner.
Weiner. Yeah, David Weiner.
Well, do you want to be a wiener or do you want to be a whiner? Like either one is fine. But like,
well, think about it. If you go by wiener, you're probably gonna be a whiner, and if you're a whiner, then you're just a wiener about everything.
What if it's Wanye?
We're being really insensitive assholes right now.
David Wanye.
David Wanye. So
you can cut all that out. It's all good.
No, we're real and unfiltered here. But the dude like put together a monster of a documentary. Yeah. It's literally 4 hours going through it. Like starts at 1980, goes all the way through 1989, breaking down like tons of monumental horror films from that entire decade. Things on there that I personally love that I'm kind of glad that Shudder included and shed a little bit of light on, because, you know, a lot of mainstream horror people, when they think of horror, they think automatically what? Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees,
Rob Zombie,
Freddy Krueger, unfortunately, Rob Zombie. They think of Chucky movies. And there's a Scream, which isn't counted in this because it's 90s, but there's just certain like franchise that are super mainstream. And this dived in to some killer stuff. Like they talked about Basket Case, The Stuff,
Street Trash,
Night of the Creeps, Street Trash, The Toxic Avenger, So
they're talking about Trauma a little bit. Yeah, it was really rad, you know, because like you said, the guy that wrote it and directed it, David, it was a monstrous undertaking, like you said. I mean, because if you look at not just the way it was put together, which was really, really freaking well, just all the interviews that he either conducted. I'm not sure whether he conducted those or he just collected them. If he conducted them, that makes it even more like that's a Mount Everest type of feat, because you have people he's interviewing like John Carpenter, you have like Barbara Crampton, you have like Mick Garrison, you have Kane Hodder, you have anybody that is anybody in 80s horror, you know, is in this, minus, you know, of course, some of our people that have, you know, like passed away since, like, of course, you know.
Right. Well, he did still get like archived footage of some of that.
Right.
Like archived interviews and stuff. So
yeah. But I mean, it is literally probably, if you're a horror fan, you've probably already seen it. And if not, it is a must watch. 4 hours. It goes by super quick because the way the documentary moves is just, you know, it just moves really well. It's not a boring or dull moment, because not only do they talk about films, they also give a little bit of behind the scenes kind of insight about what went on in some of the movies, and it's just exceptional. 10 out of 10.
Yep. I felt literally like the whole time watching it, I was just like, oh, they're talking about the stuff. Yeah. Oh my God, they're talking about Basket Case. Oh shit, Street Trash. Oh, they're talking about Trauma. No. Oh, they're talking about all these obscure movies. And then of course they, you know, talked about the monumental like mainstream franchise films from the decade. But
so if I'm
they talked about Society.
Right. Yeah. Which is, you know, like I said, or like you said, it's interesting that they talked about lesser known films to like mainstream, right? I mean, a lot of people that watch horror know about Society, they know about Trauma, they know about The Stuff and Street Trash, but you know, like random people that you meet on the street, they have no idea about these movies. And so if they watch this film, then they're gonna hopefully open their eyes to some other stuff that's out there than what they've normally seen in the past.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure, Justin, I'm actually trying to fact check myself right now. I think he has In Search of Darkness 2 coming out. Is that something you've seen, or am I making that up?
I haven't seen anything about it, but
let me see. I'm pretty sure I saw something somewhere about it. Maybe it's in the making, or maybe
I don't see anything about it, so I mean, I would definitely love that, but I'm hoping that it's something that happens. But I mean, for now, I feel like because I don't find anything about it, or I can't see. Like I Googled In Search of Darkness 2 and I'm not finding anything.
Let me go to his Instagram real quick, guys. If you want to follow this dude on Instagram, it's at 80s Horror Doc. So 80s HORRORDOC. Let me see. So if you go to his thing, if you go to his Instagram, he has In Search of Darkness Part 2, Top 40 Moments in 80s Horror right here. So he does have like screenshots of, you know, In Search of Darkness Part 2. So I don't know if it's something he's making or if he's just doing like publicity for it, or what's up with it. If it's going to be an actual movie, or an actual documentary like he had before, or if it's just something he's doing for Instagram. But he definitely is teasing In Search of Darkness Part 2, because this movie or this documentary came out last year in 2019. So for him, you know, it's new to a lot of us, but for him, this is probably a year old. So, I mean, he's probably already moving on to working on his next project, which possibly could be this. And I hope so, like you said, because this thing is phenomenal. Like, I absolutely love this, because there was a lot of stuff that was left out, right? Like, he could only cover so much in 4 hours, because 80s horror is like, oh my God, the laundry list of the films and how many films there are is massive. So yeah, he could definitely fit in another 80s horror 4-hour documentary.
Yep, and I would definitely watch it. So with that being said, go check out In Search of Darkness, and we are going to take a quick sponsor break and then jump into some other great films. How's it going, creeps? One quick mid-episode break to tell you a little more about our sponsor. Since 2016, Everblack Coffee Company has delivered exceptional single-origin coffee and high fives all over the world. They understand that a cup of coffee is so much more than something you drink. That's why they source their beans from farms that only use fair trade and organic growing practices. When you buy coffee from Everblack, you can be certain that you're getting the highest quality coffee available by ethical means only. It's time to start looking at coffee differently. Head over to everblackcoffee.com and grab a bag for yourself. It's deliciously dark. Now back to the show. This next, group of movies we are going to talk about are, I'm pretty sure I can speak for both of us collectively, some of our favorite films, or at least I'd say this is one of my favorite franchise.
Oh, for sure.
I do have a tier list, obviously, of which films in this movie are better than the other films in this franchise, or films in this movie. Films in this franchise are better than other films of this franchise, but as an entire franchise, this is definitely up there. Not only as, a filmmaker, as far as inspiration or making me want to go make movies, but also is just from the viewpoint of like a movie goer or someone who's watching something to be entertained. And that, of course, is The Evil Dead. And where better to start than the original Evil Dead? So I'm going to let you take this one, Andrew.
All right. Yeah. So, guys, if you haven't seen Evil Dead, most of you have. I'm sure you're probably a horror fan if you're listening to a horror podcast. If not, no disrespect your way, go watch Evil Dead. It is probably one of the most fantastic movies that you'll ever see, right? Because it is directed and written by Sam Raimi, and the way his take on terror and his take on horror is something that is uniquely original to him. Now there has been people trying to replicate what he's done in his career, and it normally just comes off as just over the top stupid. So Evil Dead's from 1981. The tagline is "They got up on the wrong side of the grave." Written, directed by Sam Raimi. Synopsis, guys, is pretty simple. 5 friends travel to a cabin in the woods where they unknowingly release flesh-possessing demons. So that is a very, very, very vague synopsis, wouldn't you say, Justin?
Yes.
So it's basically about this group of teenagers. They go to a cabin, like it says, and then they end up finding a book made of flesh, bound in flesh, called the Necronomicon. They end up reading the book. That book ends up releasing deadites, or what they, come to be known as. And these deadites are these demons that take human form, and they start basically attacking the cabin and attacking this group of, I don't want to say teenagers, this group of
young adults.
Young adults, yeah. I always have problems with that in every podcast. I want to call everybody teenagers. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, so by horror movie standards, they're supposed to be like,
right.
Or so it's always either just supposed to be inferred that they're like high school teenagers or young college students. And these are like the young college kids kind of.
Right. But yeah, so this, of course, if you guys are a horror fan, stars as the main character, Bruce Campbell. He plays Ash. And
Ashley.
Yes, Ashley. Well, but he goes by Ash in the franchise, and this is what makes this movie, or Bruce Campbell's what makes this film and this series of films so great, because his over-the-top acting and his over-the-top persona is hands down some of the best in all of horror. And so this movie basically just, the entire film is Ash fighting against all of these deadites. Now, the way Sam Raimi writes his demons are over the top, and they always have like this comedic element. So instead of being just straight scary, they do this weird thing where they sort of are like taunting, right? Like taunting their victims. And a lot of times it comes off as very comedic, but it's also like, if you think about it, that's pretty damn scary, right? So with Evil Dead, Justin, agree or disagree? it's probably the most straight horror movie of the series, right? Over Evil Dead and
question,
its its successors. But so you're not going to get 100% of that crazy ass shit in this one. But when you start watching the sequels, you're going to be like, holy shit, they went straight out of left field with this. It gets insane. What are your thoughts on Evil Dead?
So as far as like the first one, I do love the first. It's not my favorite in the franchise.
Agreed.
But I think this one, I think it's the scariest. At least of the original trilogy. We'll get to the remake in a bit. I think as far as films go, the remake does have actually more of a straightforward horror tone. But if we're talking about the OG trilogy, the first one it's a horror movie. It's not a horror comedy like it starts to go with the other two. But
right.
So this one, I feel this is one of the movies that made me want to go make horror films. There's a lot of shots in this that are just like, you're like, oh, that's so cool. And then you find out how they did it. And it's like what do they call it? The Raimi cam or something like that, where it's the board.
Right.
It's like the 2x4 with the camera mounted to the center,
and the
two guys are running it. Yeah. And the two guys are running it through the woods. And it's like just shit like that. Watching behind the scenes, like on this very DVD that's in front of me, I was like, that's so fucking cool. But because, especially the fact, so this film had a budget of $350,000, which for any of you guys that listen to our podcast that know nothing about actual filmmaking, $350,000 sounds like a lot of money, but that's like a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
Like, especially by today's standards, that's not even considered a low budget film. A couple $1 million is low budget.
Right.
So they did a lot with what they had. The story is pretty confined. So, I mean, they didn't have to worry about a whole lot of shit going on. But given that they were like, okay, so we've got this story, we've got a cabin, and we've got our characters, and we're just going to take this over the top story and do what we can with what we've got. Well, and this sparked from Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell actually worked together. They were, they had been friends before this anyway.
Right.
And they worked on a short film called Into the Woods. And, Raimi, behind the camera, and Bruce Campbell was in this. And then that was kind of like a predecessor for The Evil Dead.
And they were young when they did it too. I mean, they were 20 and 21 years old during production of Evil Dead, which is a monster feat, because if you think about it now, of course, you'll have a lot of, like young college film students and stuff that are putting out features nowadays in the digital era. But if you think about it back in those days when it was so expensive to make a film, that is insane. 20 and 21 years old. That's amazing. That's why, like, when you look at Sam Raimi now and you're like, man, that guy's what? He did Evil Dead. He still looks pretty damn good. He's pretty young, like you figure he would be like, like John Carpenter's age or something like that. Like, like just an older gentleman. But now he's of course he's older, because if you think 21 in 1981, that's like 60 now. But I mean, he's not like in his 80s, so I don't know. It's just insane that they were able to pull this off when they were that young. And it was filmed not far from us, Justin, Morristown, Tennessee. That's sort of in our backyard. I mean, we're in Western North Carolina for anybody that is interested in our geographic location. So I think it's probably about an hour or so away from us. And, it made the UK Video Nasty list, which is always back in those days. I think they tried to stay off of it, but that would have been probably now. It's like a claim to fame, right?
Oh, yeah. So if you guys don't know what the Video Nasties list is, basically in the UK, any film, especially like horror films or anything that was just considered like straight up like gore porn, it was categorized as video nasty, and it was actually banned. So this is one of the famed 1980s video nasties.
What's your favorite scene from this? Justin, do you have a favorite scene from it? From the first film?
From the first film?
Yes.
My favorite scene is probably just because of when I was a kid, this creeped me the hell out. The scene where he's in the living room now. You know, all of his friends have been like either killed or possessed, and he's sitting there and his girlfriend's sitting in the doorway saying that, you know, don't go to sleep, or no, time to go to sleep, not another peep. We're going to get you, that little thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like her voice is doubled over.
Right.
And she's in the full like demonic makeup with the contact lenses. So her eyes are just pure white, and they've almost like given her like that little like Glasgow smile kind of thing.
Right.
And it's just imagining what he's feeling in that moment. It's like, as a kid, that like now, you know, it doesn't bother me, but like watching that like younger, I was probably like 10 or something when I saw this. It was like playing on HBO or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, that scared the shit out of me, dude.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scenes in this, you know, that were pretty scary as a kid, because this is one I saw early on in life, you know, probably a little bit earlier than I should have. And like, that's one of the things that if you watch it now, it's going to be like, well, yeah, looks kind of amateurish, but like when you were a kid and you saw this like around like, let's say the early 90s, you were like, oh, whoa, you know, I can't go to sleep now. I got to sleep with the light on. But yeah, it's just chocked full of like blood, gore, and just super awesome shit. Like, just, I mean, like you talked about the demon cam, the Raimi cam with the dudes, you know, how they had the demons POV shots running through the woods, running through the house. It's just insane. And, you know, Bruce Campbell does all of his own stunts in these movies. So he's really thrown himself through like, you know, bookshelves, windows and bookshelves and you know, across the cabin and shit like that. So super gnarly. Moving on to Evil Dead 2, Justin, 1987. Yes. So of course, 1981 and 1987, 6 years apart, but, Evil Dead, it got a lot of popularity. Of course, a lot of people turned their noses up to it because the video nasties and that sort of thing, but it really took off.
But this is also probably the one that when people think of the Evil Dead, like as far as the original films go, they think of this one, even if they're trying to think of the original one, because they're thinking of like Ash with the chainsaw hand, and that all happens in the sequel.
Right. It's a totally
and when you
different...
think of Ash's personality, that all comes from the sequel. He's not that dude in the first one.
Well, what I want you to talk about, Justin, because me and you've had conversations about this over the past week, and I want you to talk about some of these inconsistencies between the two, because
right. Well, I'll touch on it a little, but I want to save a lot of that for after we've talked about the three films, and then maybe shed a little light on the series, like the actual like television series.
Works for me,
because as a whole, there's a whole lot of inconsistencies. But so basically, the first one's right away. So in the Evil Dead, Ash is kind of like this, you know. He's timid. He's like the typical, like, he's like an American boy, you know, like from the 80s. He had the whole, like, he was wearing that blue shirt and the same pant. He was dressed the same, but it had a different look on him because he was like this nice guy. You know, there's the scene where they go down in the basement in the first one and find all the stuff. And the guy's joking with him, and he's like, hey, you know, this looks like your ex-girlfriend. And Ash just kind of like laughs. Like, he just had a whole different personality.
Right.
Like the other guy was kind of like a douchebag, and Ash was like the voice of reason, nice guy. And then in the Evil Dead 2, it's like Ash is this like over the badass top that says over the top badass that says groovy and baby a lot. Like, he didn't talk like that in the first one.
No.
So that's what I'm saying. When people think of the Evil Dead, even if they think that they're talking about the first film, when they talk about Ash and they're like groovy or hit me baby and stuff like that, like that is all Ash Williams from the Evil Dead 2. And the chainsaw is the Evil Dead 2. So basically, some of the reason that there's inconsistencies, So in the second film, there's like a little recap at the first, the first like probably 10 minutes of it. And what happened in the first one is completely changed. So the actress that plays the girlfriend has changed. And instead of him and a group of friends coming to the cabin, it's just him and his girlfriend. And then more people show up in the second movie. So that way the film can play out with more characters. But crazy stuff, dude. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. So, so the thing about it that I love about the Evil Dead series is how it's just basically a bunch of childhood friends, have made this series work. You have Sam Raimi, you have Raimi's two brothers that get involved later on. You have Bruce Campbell, the actress that plays Bruce Campbell's girlfriend. I think she went to school with all of them. Went to high school with all of them. And then you have the second movie, the co-writer, which is Scott Spiegel. He was one of their old friends as well. So it's like literally just a whole bunch of friends just making movies together, and successful movies.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Right. And, so continuity was one thing we talked about. Like Justin said, he wants to touch on that a little bit later. But, most of the film was shot on a set built in the gymnasium. If you didn't know that, Justin, in Wadesboro, that's pretty close to us as well. Yep. Wadesboro, North Carolina, again, I think that's within an hour's drive of us. So, pretty close.
Give or take.
It's not where the original cabin's at. That's out there in Morristown, Tennessee, I think it is, which the cabin's not there anymore. I think it got burned down or something from what I read a long time ago. I was like, I got to go check that out once I found out where it is. But, one, it's on private property. Two, it's gone, minus I think the chimney's still there, but so nothing to see out there, unfortunately. Or trust me and Justin would be out there. But
yep.
Like you said, Evil Dead 2 is my favorite Evil Dead. It's my favorite of the series. It is more serious. Well, it's not more serious. The first one is more straight horror. This one is the production value is better, and that is because, of course, they've kind of sort of ironed out their kinks of where the story should be, and they've also got more experience under their belt. In an interview, Bruce Campbell talks about, man, he could not act his way out of a paper bag in the first one. And then in the second one, like Justin said, he really comes into his own and he plays this over the top, I don't even know, like a cross between Elvis and...
He definitely finds his typecast, because also, quick shout out to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell plays the wrestling announcer, remember, in the first one? Like, he gets a little cameo.
Yeah.
And he's playing that same type of character. Like, he's even wearing like a suit, and he's got the sunglasses, and he's basically got the whole "that's show business, baby" attitude going on. So
what I love about this, though, is like when you watch these movies closely, Justin, you notice a lot of similarities, and it seems chaotic, but they pay a lot of attention to detail. So cool Easter egg is this one in the woodshed, right? They have the Freddy's glove, right, to pay homage to Wes Craven. So that's pretty cool. That and the Delta 88 they drive. So that was one of Sam Raimi's personal cars, and that has stayed in basically everything Sam Raimi's done. I think it was even in Spider-Man. Was that Uncle Ben's car?
Yeah, it was Uncle Ben's car.
Uncle Ben's car. I think it was in Drag Me to Hell. So the Delta 88's been in everything he's ever done. So that's a cool thing to see, repeated throughout, his filmography. So I mean, this is the movie, Evil Dead 2. You can watch this one without seeing Evil Dead. And this is the one that I visit back the most. I visit back to this one the most. Like, I don't really watch Evil Dead 1 much. Unless I'm just wanting to see it specifically for one reason or another. But Evil Dead 2 is where it's at. Like you said, with the chainsaw hand, it's it.
Most of the iconic imagery for the franchise is derived from part 2. That's where, because his hand becomes possessed and he cuts it off. And then he gets the chainsaw. And then, of course, he gets, like, when he fashions the chainsaw arm, he uses it to saw off the barrel of the shotgun. So now he's got his famous boomstick. Yeah. And then he that's where he fashions all of the get up, where he's got the strap where he can just take the shotgun and holster it to his back. And then he's got the thing on his, the strap he's got with his shotgun holder. He's got the little, like a little clip where he can take the pulley for the chainsaw and put it there and then just rip it and let it go instead of, because he doesn't have two hands. So that just makes it easy. It's genius.
So what is your favorite scene of this one?
So from part 2 is probably when his hand does become possessed and is basically kicking his own ass.
Yeah.
So he's it's making him cut cartwheels and or not cartwheels, but front flips and stuff in the kitchen and slamming himself through the bookshelves and stuff. Yeah. And it's a good time. Again. And then of course he cuts the hand off and he's chasing it through the house.
Yeah, again doing his own stunts, which is pretty awesome, especially once you get more, famous, you become a bigger celebrity and you're still willing to do your own stunts. That's pretty awesome of whoever's doing it, right? I think my favorite scene is what you had just talked about prior to that was when he actually cuts his hand off. And he's like, "Who's laughing now? Who's laughing now?"
Yeah, who's laughing now?
And it's man, that's just insane because all the blood is squirting up on his face and stuff. It's just so over the top.
Well, actually, also, speaking of that, I think my second favorite scene is when he's going batshit crazy, and he's in the I guess you'd call it the living room or just the open space of the cabin.
Yeah,
and the deer on the wall starts laughing at him and everything's moving.
Oh God,
and then
he starts
the lamp
dancing.
He's with the lamp.
Yeah.
Because the lamp is going up and down. So he looks at it and they're both dancing. And then the lamp stops too.
Yeah.
And then they both stop and then they just go, ah, and just start cracking up.
Which is so, because we talked about this in a past podcast of how I like horror when there's a little bit of comedy, but I hate it when it's more comedy than horror. But something about Evil Dead just freaking works. Evil Dead 2 just freaking works. It's about it is the perfect second movie in this filmography because Evil Dead 1, like we said, is more straight horror. This one is kind of a combination of the two. And then the next one we talk about is just what the fuck, But yeah, it's a fantastic movie. So if you have to watch any of these, watch Evil Dead 2. Yeah. You want to go ahead and move into this next one, Justin?
Yeah. So we'll talk about this, and then that's going to allow us to start moving into some of the inconsistencies because Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, they both take place in the cabin. So Army of Darkness takes place in the 1300s.
Army of Darkness being the third movie, if you're not aware.
Yes. So Army of Darkness is basically Evil Dead 3. It's just called Army of Darkness. For those of you who are doing the video version, I've got the VHS right here. So at first glance, it looks cool. This front cover looks you've got Ash and he's all ripped and his shirt's all torn off. And he's this woman's hanging on to him and he's got his chainsaw arm and there's a medieval castle behind him. And
I was about to say, why the fuck is there a tire there? But it's from the Delta 88. I was why the fuck is there a tire there?
Basically, in the second film, when they, seal the Deadites back, and they send him to the past or whatever, Ash gets sucked into the past too, and he falls out of the sky. Now he's in the 1300s, and he's taken captive because they think that, he's with the opposing army, and they throw him in this pit, and it gets batshit crazy because there's Deadites there, and he kills the Deadites, and the guy there that's supposed to be their, what are these called? He's kind of the, what are those, every medieval movie has this dude. He's the guy that's in charge of the potions and reading prophecies.
Oh, he's the wise man. I think is what they call him.
There's a name for it, but I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, so he sees the Ash as the chosen one, and he throws him his shotgun down this pit they've thrown him down, and he kills the Deadites and climbs his way out. And then, of course, in Bruce Campbell fashion, climbs out of the pit and looks at everybody, and he's like, "Who wants some?" No. As if any of them would have known what that means. And then, like you and I were talking the other day about how he tells the dude, "Hey, your laces are untied."
Yeah.
And he looks down, and then he uppercuts the guy. But it's like they didn't have shoelaces back then. We did fact check that. So I don't know. This movie, so basically they take him in, they tell him what's up. He's got to go and he's got to steal the Necronomicon and battle or he's got to bring them the book back, but he screws up in Ash fashion and awakens the army of darkness, this army of the dead, and he has to fight them. Batshit crazy compared to the other two films. So let's just make a roundabout information session here real quick. The guy was called the Wise Man. I was right. Played by the one and only Ian Abercrombie, which maybe not has a ton of things that we know that he's done, but he was in the Clone Wars animated series, and he did the voice of Chancellor Palpatine and Darth Sidious. Well, exciting, right? Exciting. The more you know. So Army of Darkness is a very what the fuck movie, like you said, Justin. And the inconsistencies are heavy. It's from 1992. Did you go into the synopsis? I don't think you even said it. Nope.
All right. So the synopsis, the official synopsis, not the Justin James synopsis, is a Sardarnic hardware store clerk is accidentally transported to 1300 AD, where he must retrieve the Necronomicon and battle an army of the dead so he can return home. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And this movie probably was super sick back in 1992. When you watch it,
I love this movie. It's just definitely not like my favorite.
Well, you can crucify me now. This movie, it's not terrible. I don't hate it, but I enjoy watching it maybe once a year. It's not something I enjoy rewatching because every time I watch it, me and Justin talked the other day, and I thought that if instead of appeasing the MPAA and trying to make a movie for theaters, if Raimi would have continued on with what he did in Evil Dead 2, I love the medieval setting, but I think if he would have continued on and he would have just been like, you know what, let's just throw gore in there, let's just throw blood in there, because he's already writing off his name, right? He already knows he's Sam Raimi at this point. The Army of Darkness VHS I have, the top of it says from the director of Darkman. It doesn't even have from the director of Evil Dead 2. Darkman, who gives a shit about that? Give me some more Evil Dead 2 stuff, right? So my complaint is, I was telling Justin, if they would have made a better story, I love the Army of the Dead with the skeletons, but if there was more lepers and there was more gore and witches and shit like that, and he was just hacking them up with his chainsaw, I'd be so much more about it. I love the skeletons. I love Evil Ash at the end. I just think they could have done way more with it.
So if you had to rate this on a scale from it will swallow your soul to groovy, what would you give it?
I would rate it more along the lines of it would swallow my soul, because I would say out of a 1 to 10, a very easy 5. And that's because I like it enough, and I only like it enough because I like Bruce Campbell that much, and I like Sam Raimi that much, and I like Evil Dead 2 that much, right? If this was not a Sam Raimi, was not a Bruce Campbell, I probably would not watch this movie. I would probably think it's trash. As much as I love an army of skeletons, I mean, I've got fucking, skeleton shit all right here in my studio, to me, that's, and the name Army of Darkness, holy shit, that's the best horror movie name ever. But it just doesn't do it for me, man. There's just too many inconsistencies, and there's just too much. It just seems like it was low budget even for 92 or 93, 92
I can get
when it
behind
came out.
that, but I do enjoy the film. Like I would actually go watch that, like just because. So yeah, I mean, we can get into some of these inconsistencies because we don't really need to linger on the other parts of these, and we can just have a general conversation. So, that is the original Evil Dead trilogy. What some people consider should have been where they left it. But there's a remake. I don't really want to talk on the remake a whole lot. I actually haven't watched the remake in years. I just remember that, I mean, it was pretty decent. I'm like you. I did not like it the first time I saw it. I think a lot of that was me holding on to the original trilogy so hard and then going into that with impossible expectations. I wanted to hate it like before I even saw it because I was like, they're remaking.
I was the same way.
Yeah. So, and like you've mentioned before, it's less of a remake and more of like a story set in the same universe. Which I think,
because
go ahead.
They don't try to recreate Ash, right?
Yeah.
Which is a big thing, because if they would have tried to recreate Ash Williams and have somebody act like Bruce Campbell, it would have never worked.
It'd be like Jason Statham.
Yeah. And I mean, you get more of that particular thing where they're like poking fun of that in the movie Cabin in the Woods, right? Where they have characters like that and they actually poke fun at like that universe. But, and that's what this essentially would have been. It would have just fell flat on its face. Like Justin said, I hated it upon my first viewing. But I watched it not long ago and it's still not like a fantastic film. It's well put together. Like it is well put together, the way, they wrote it and the way that they shot it. It's technically it's good. But it's not the same, it could have been something else. It could have been its own movie. Like many remakes, it could have just been its own movie and been just as popular, if not more popular. It did have more blood and gore than a lot of modern horror movie films do, right? So it kind of lived up to Raimi in that way. The director is skilled, Fede Alvarez. He actually got the job because he had a YouTube hit, right? Like a viral YouTube short film called Panic Attack in 2009. And that kind of like put his foot in the door to, put his name on the roster, and he landed Evil Dead. So, that's a big move, right? That's awesome for him. And he ended up also doing Don't Breathe. So he's no small time director, writer at this point. But I don't know. The thing that made sense, there you go, Don't Breathe. But the thing that made sense in this movie was how they kind of grounded it a little bit in realism with the drug use and all of that. So when they go to the cabin, one of the teenagers, she is withdrawing from, I think, I can't remember what it is, heroin.
I think it's heroin.
Yeah, it's heroin. And she gets there, and so she's the one that first starts seeing all these things, and the other three basically think that she's just hallucinating because she's going through withdrawals, getting real sick because she's going through withdrawals. But no, it's like the Deadites are, showing up and they're starting to possess her. And, they're like, okay, well, no matter what, we're not going to leave. We're going to make sure she goes through her full withdrawal, because one of the other girl that's there at the cabin is like a nurse aide or nursing assistant or some shit like that. So she's trying to give them all this like medical mumbo jumbo and make sure that she's just, in a sweat lodge, essentially just going to sweat out all these drugs and go through withdrawals there. And little do they know, it's the Deadites have returned, because I hate to be this way, guys, but I don't remember the actors' names in this. But it's the guy with the glasses and long hair. He finds the Necronomicon, and of course it says in there, do not read these words, do not read them out loud. And he starts doing the incantations of the Necronomicon. Next thing you know, he basically fucks all four of them. Deadites show up and slowly start just picking them off.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. It's 2013. It's a modern day horror movie. It's not terrible, but it's no Evil Dead 2. And that's what it wanted to be. I guess that would be the remake it was going after. Obviously, it wasn't trying to be Army of Darkness or remake Army of Darkness. It wasn't really trying to, I guess, maybe it was trying to be more like Evil Dead 1, right? Because there was no, there is a chainsaw in the movie for a brief minute, but, you know.
There's a lot of Easter eggs in this film.
Yeah, but nobody's like Ash Williams-ing anything, and you know, it's there's some pretty sick parts in it though. Like one of my favorite scenes was just in the very beginning when the dad has to light his daughter up because she's possessed. He lights her up and burns her alive. That's pretty sick. And then towards the end, where your main actress, the one that's actually going through the withdrawals, is basically getting her vengeance on the Deadites. And the Jeep rolls over on her hand, and that's when she basically gets bathed in this like in blood that's raining from the sky.
Now, it's just that scene was awesome pretty epic. Yeah. I mean, I like for this film for what it is, you know, I think it was pretty decent. Like after I watched it the second time, I definitely think this is one of the better horror films from that time period because there wasn't a whole lot coming out around that time that impressed me. So after I got over my initial, like, you know, being all about the nostalgia and holding on to my beloved, my beloved trilogy here, like, and I just like, I watched it again. I was like, okay, like it's good. Like it's not like in my top films or anything. Like it's probably maybe in like my top 300 horror films. But
you gotta let it go, man.
Gotta let it go. But
gotta let it go.
So I mean, so it's a thing that happened. You know, Evil Dead remake. So now, he does get a little cameo at the end though.
He does at the very end, which is weird. Like, why? I love Bruce Campbell, but why is that even there? That just, it makes no sense. I mean, it's great to see him. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see him, but it's like,
it's because it's groovy.
You know, why? Why is that there? It doesn't. It literally adds nothing to the film. You know, and it's not like, oh, you know, like guess what, guys? There's gonna be another movie. It's not like a MCU moment where you wait till after the credits and you see, oh shit, this is going to tell me what the next movie's about. No, it's just like literally like he's just there, which whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a negative Nancy, but it's like, I don't think if they were going to include him anywhere else in the movie or even speak his name in the movie, that why put him there. That seems like it's just sort of like, let's do this to earn some cool points real quick. But shoot me in the fucking face, Justin, because I think, other than Evil Dead 2, the thing that is better than all the other films combined is the Star series Ash vs. Evil Dead 2015.
Better than everything combined, I don't agree. But
other than Evil Dead 2, I think it's better than Evil Dead 1, better than Army of Darkness, better than Evil Dead the remake, all combined.
I will agree except for the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. I do think this is better than Army of Darkness and the remake, or reboot, call it.
I said it's not better than Evil Dead 2. Are you listening to me?
No, you said it's not better than Evil Dead 2, but you said it's better than the Evil Dead.
Yes.
I don't agree. It's
better than the first
That's
film.
where I'm saying I don't agree. Are you listening to me?
So, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Because Evil Dead 1, great film in its own right. It set the entire thing in motion. It set up the entire Evil Dead universe, or as we like to call it here at Black Mass, the EDCU, the Evil Dead Cinematic Universe. It set all of that in motion.
Or the Erectile Dysfunction Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, well, maybe.
It'll swallow your soul.
It'll swallow your soul. But it wasn't... Evil Dead 1... is not Evil Dead 2, right? I think Evil Dead 2 was a much better movie. Like I said, it's my favorite. And you get Evil Dead 2 and Ash vs. Evil Dead. So it's just like a continuation on years later. It kind of takes the canon away from Army of Darkness. It really kind of just goes away with the first film because fuck, the second movie goes away with the first film. It's like that never even happened.
Here's where you're leaving me the door to take over on this continuity shit. Because here's the thing. We can do a whole separate episode about Ash vs. Evil Dead. I love this series. Now, granted, I've only completed the first season. I do need to watch the rest. Unfortunately, it is over. It was canceled. But this is supposed to be taking place after the other films, except for it erases Army of Darkness. So this is where all the continuity batshit crazy stuff starts to happen. Because now I'm going to backtrack a little bit, going back to the original trilogy. So, we talked about how the Evil Dead was kind of rewritten. Evil Dead 2, it goes back over what happened, but instead of him and a group of his friends coming, it's just him and his girlfriend. He has to kill his girlfriend, so he kills...
Which is a different actress. Yeah. Which is a different actress, by the way.
Yeah, same girlfriend. Even gives her the same gift. That little magnifying glass necklace.
Yeah.
Different actress. So he still has to kill her in the second one. He has to kill her in the first one. But he kills her in a different way. So in the second movie, instead of him and a group of friends, it's just him and his girlfriend. Other people show up. At the end of the second movie, the daughter of the guy who was researching the Book of the Dead and everything, who in the first one was on the tape recorder that was saying the incantations that set the demons free. So his daughter randomly shows up with this like hillbilly couple that helped her get to the cabin. And they defeat they open this portal and send the Deadites back. And at the end of the second one, Ash gets also sucked into the portal along with the car. And he is thrown back to the 1300s where everyone's like, who are you? And they're about to try to take him. So this random flying demon comes out of the sky. And in very Ash Williams fashion, he takes his shotgun from his back, shoots the thing out of the sky, and then everyone bows down to him. And the camera like pulls out and he's standing atop of this rock. And it looks just like the image from the book where it shows that he's the chosen one. And he's like, no, because now he realizes what's happened. So here comes Army of Darkness. That shit didn't happen. Yes, didn't happen. Yes, he's back in the 1300s, but it picks up right where Evil Dead 2 left off and shows him being thrown out of the sky. There is no Deadite demon, and he doesn't shoot it from the sky, so he's not immediately praised, and he's immediately taken prisoner. And it's
he's immediately enslaved.
Yeah, and it's like, what the fuck? So here comes Ash versus Evil Dead. It shows flashbacks. He's telling people parts of his life. He says, me and a group of my friends went to this cabin, and it shows flashbacks from the first film. But then he talks about having to kill his girlfriend, and it shows his girlfriend from the second film and him killing her the way that he did in the second film, even though it's already shown a flashback of the other actress that was his girlfriend. And the character that he plays in Ash vs. Evil Dead is his persona from the second film. Army of Darkness didn't happen at all.
Thank fuck. You're like, you ever see that picture of Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny, and he has all the papers on the wall?
Yeah, and he's trying to figure the shit out. Yeah.
That's you right now.
Yeah,
that's you. That's like the image I have of you right now.
I'm just this. Just
yeah.
But
Ash vs. Evil Dead is amazing, and we were very, very lucky to have it. Right. It did end up getting canceled, but it's great because you have Bruce Campbell being Ash from Evil Dead 2. And then, of course, there's other likable characters.
Hold that thought, because you also reminded me, since he is Ash from Evil Dead 2, in Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, is Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness where they introduce the fact that he works at the store?
That was the end of
Army of Darkness. So see,
Army of Darkness.
They did tie Army of Darkness in there because now he works there, even though that story didn't happen. But there's even an inconsistency with the name of the damn store because, of course, in Army of Darkness, it's Shop Smart, Shop S-Mart. But in Ash vs. Evil Dead, he does not work at S-Mart. I'm looking it up now, but it's a completely different store.
I'm pretty sure you're wrong, though.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm
pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure it is. You look it up because there's another thing from Army of Darkness and Ash vs. Evil Dead, and that is his bionic hand. So in Army of Darkness, he basically forges a bionic I don't want to say it's robotic, but it's made out of metal and it's a super crushing hand.
He is a stock boy at Value Stop in Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Oh, well, there you go. And you know what that probably was? It was probably that they couldn't get the rights to S-Mart.
It's because they didn't shop Smart.
Allowed to get that name.
They didn't shop S-Mart.
I didn't know. I never even thought about it. I always thought it was just S-Mart and Ash vs. Evil Dead too.
Look, I've got all these. I got my board.
I got my board here. I've got all these blueprints.
Yeah.
You probably have like Bruce Campbell's address written down somewhere.
Yeah, let me call him up. Let me phone in a Bruce Campbell.
But yeah, so I mean, the reason that Ash vs. Evil Dead works is because, you have some of the same people involved with it. It's executive produced by Sam Raimi, Rob Tapper, and Bruce Campbell, right? And of course, Bruce Campbell's in it. And, you have Ivan Raimi, his brother, he co-executive produces it. So, I mean, you have people that are actually involved with the original films, involved with the series. And you have characters that are pretty strong in it. You have his two accomplices. I don't remember their names. God, why can't I remember their name? Dana Del Lorenzo and Ray Santiago as Pablo. Both of them are really strong actors. They're both really likable. And then Lucy Lawless, that's freaking Xena, the warrior princess. So like she's in this. And the effects are cool, right? You have a lot of super gnarly like special effects. This isn't any shortage of the gore. It's, not shortage of good story, like the story's good. So he's basically washed up now. He gets high in his little motorhome and he ends up reciting. He tells this girl that he's talking to, hey, you want to hear, right. You want to hear some poems or hear some poetry. And he starts, since he's high or fucked up or drunk, he, pulls out the Necronomicon out of a chest that he has, and he starts reciting it, and then of course that sets everything in motion. Yeah, amazing series. Definitely watch Ash vs. Evil Dead. If it was me giving you my professional horror cinema creep opinion, all you need is Evil Dead 2 and Ash vs. Evil Dead. I love Evil Dead 1, but it is not essential to the series. Watch these two and you've experienced it all.
Now, see, I'll agree with that. It's not essential. But so if I was going to rate everything on my desk right now, well, I don't have any of the seasons of Ash vs. Evil Dead yet. Well, so rate it. I would go Evil Dead 2, The Evil Dead, Ash vs. Army of Darkness. Ash vs. Evil Dead. Then Army of Darkness. Okay. Then Evil Dead reboot. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's how I would do it.
Go for it.
I would do it Evil Dead 2. Ash vs. Evil Dead. Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2013. Then Army of Darkness.
Ooh. I do agree. So, I think Army of Darkness and Evil Dead, the reboot, are interchangeable. Now, I am going to have to watch this. I have not watched this in a while. So, I'm probably going to give this a watch this week because I haven't watched this in probably like 5 years. So,
well, let me tell you what is gnarly before we move on. Like, I don't absolutely hate Army of Darkness. I know I talked about it a little bit, but one of my favorite things about that movie, like I said, is Evil Ash is gnarly, and the Army of Darkness, right? The skeleton army. You don't get anything cooler than that. But to me, those are the only two cool things about the film, other than just Bruce Campbell being there. But I mean, Bruce Campbell, anything he's in, he's awesome. Bubba Hotep, if you ever watched that, like Bruce Campbell's just awesome all around human being. Like
Maniac Cop.
If you follow him on his social media, right? Like he just seems like a very good dude in person, and his acting is just fun. But Evil Dead 2013, from a horror viewing standpoint, to me, it's a much better film than Army of Darkness.
I do agree.
And
I will agree
don't
with
like
that.
remakes. And I absolutely hated it when I first watched it. I watched the first 30 minutes and I turned it off. I was like, fuck this movie. I can't do this. But once I actually took time and watched it for what it was, I was like, you know what? Like, this is actually okay. This makes sense what they're doing, because they're not remaking Evil Dead. They're making a film set in the same universe with some of the same tropes, being, the Necronomicon and the Deadites and so on and so forth.
Right. All right. Well, before we, kind of bring this to a close and hit each other with some trivia questions, basically the way I feel about this franchise as a whole is I know I've been sitting here just nailing it to a cross for all these inconsistencies, which, by the way, I've got one more of those to throw at you guys before we close that.
You better not.
But this is like the one franchise that I can absolutely forgive all of the inconsistencies, because I just love this. I love these films. Like, they're batshit crazy. And I think the fact that it does have so many different storylines and inconsistencies just kind of adds to, the aura that these films do give off. So,
right. It just adds to the universe of everything being mixed up and not making sense and the craziness of it. But like you said, a lot of films with their inconsistencies, when they do have them, they try to hide it. They just put this blatantly out in the open. It's not like they were ever going to be like, well, maybe they just won't watch the other movies. No, they're like, well, fuck, they know it. Let's just do what we want to do on this one, and you got to respect that,
Right.
They were blatant about it.
Yep. Well, you have any closing thoughts on this franchise before I throw that one last inconsistency out there and then we head to some trivia questions?
Nope. Do your thing.
All right. This last bit of inconsistency is at the end of Army of Darkness, when he is now returned back to modern day time and he's working at S-Mart, the Deadites show back up and they're like, surprise, motherfucker, basically. And he grabs the gun from the shelf at S-Mart from the sporting goods and goes to town, punishing some Deadites and impressing the girl. So now, fast forward to Ash versus Evil Dead. That didn't happen at all. And these things have been sealed back since they originally sealed them. And the only reason they are now back is because, like you said, he gets high and recites this incantation while he's, trying to entertain this girl. And then that's what brings them back. So that's why he's fighting them in the series, in the television series. So, but yeah. Check out Evil Dead.
All right.
Like he said, Evil Dead 2, and the acting and the story and the characters in Ash vs. Evil Dead is also amazing. So check it out.
Yep. Check it out. All right. So it is that time again for Trivia of Terror. So I've got 3 questions for Justin. If you're new here, I ask him 3 horror-related trivia questions. He asks me 3 horror-related trivia questions.
Well, I've only got 2 for you tonight because I didn't do my homework.
You cheap bastard. He asks me 2. So if you're watching on YouTube, then if you know the questions or the answers to the questions, write them down in the comments. Or if you just want to bust our balls because we don't get them right away or we don't know them at all, then go ahead and make fun of us in the comments down there. Play along if you listen to the audio podcast.
Yep.
Justin?
And real quick, the rules are once we give each other the questions, our hands cannot touch our computers. And yeah. So
you got 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Good, because we needed to start doing a time limit. All right, let's go.
All right, Justin. So we're going to hit you with a classic for question number 1. A woman steals $40,000 from her employer and leaves town to start a new life with her lover. Along the way, she buys a new car, checks into a small motel in this 1960 film.
I'd like to answer, please.
What is it?
Psycho.
Nice. So for a bonus answer, since that was so easy, who directed Psycho?
You're giving me that as a bonus? Alfred Hitchcock.
Who wrote the score for Psycho?
Oh, that's I literally just said his name in the last episode because we were talking about the similarities to Reanimators.
He also did Twisted Nerve. No, it was
yeah,
you did.
Yeah, but I'm not drawing on his name right now, so count me off for it.
It was a bonus, anyways. Bernard Herrmann. That's the old BH.
Yeah. So you just said Bernard the Herrmann came out, but I just wasn't even thinking about it.
We're going to hit you with one that is a little bit later from 1974. Now, I know this is one of your favorite movie franchises. I did not know the answer to this, so don't feel bad if you get it wrong.
This is what I think it is.
What was the original title of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974?
You said 74. The original title. Now, I have heard this mentioned before, and I know it has to do with the family. I think it has to do with the way that they... No, it's not. No, because that would have been the second one, because they didn't say anything like that or talk about that until the second one. I was going to go with something with like, Meat to Die For, or stuff like
seconds.
that.
15 seconds.
Ooh, okay, no. It has to do with the hitchhiker, because it's head cheese, motherfucker.
It is head cheese. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's because from the line where he's talking about the process of making head cheese, when he's like, they actually pick him up.
Yep. Yeah. I never even knew that was the alternate title. All right. So, I'm not going to ask you any more about composers because I feel like that is too much of a weak area.
Yeah, that's not going to be
fun.
Suit.
For question number 3, name any horror film that stars legendary actor Lawrence Fishburne.
Horror films.
It has to be a horror film.
Okay. I'm going to go with, I think, the first film I've ever seen Lawrence Fishburne in. I just got to remember which it was, because I know the franchise. No, I know the franchise it was. I just need to remember which film it was.
Listen.
Okay. It had to be part 3 because he was in Scrubs. So I'm going to go with Nightmare on Elm Street, part 3, Dream Warriors.
Let me see. Was he in Dream Warriors?
Oh, I know that motherfucker was in Dream Warriors.
Yep, he was. Max. He played Max in Dream Warriors.
He was like a CNA or like a orderly or something.
Good job. See, because the answer that is actually on the cards that I have is the answer I probably would have given, and that was Event Horizon, which is a sci-fi horror.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking Event Horizon, but that's one of those weird like films. Like whenever I start cataloging my horror films, it's like I almost feel guilty putting Alien in the horror section and not like the sci-fi section, even though that's more like horror sci-fi. But Event Horizon is another good fucking movie, though.
Yeah, I mean it's horror adjacent sci-fi horror, so it's enough horror to be considered horror.
I mean, the ship is like fucking killing people. It's like a ship from hell, literally. So
feed me some questions.
All right, I only have 2 for you.
Okay.
So let me pull them up here. I'll hit you with an easy one. The first one. So, Let Me In. No, not Let Me In. Let the Right One In, 2008. Takes place in what European city?
That takes place in... Oh my God. That takes place in Stockholm, Sweden.
Yep. Stockholm, Sweden.
Look at that.
All right.
Look at your boy, geographic genius over here.
Coming through.
Yeah.
All right. This next one, I didn't get this off of any slash card or anything like that.
Okay.
I literally just pulled a random film out of my
Rolodex,
cerebral library of films, and I looked up the official synopsis, and I'm going to hit you with it and see if you can guess the film.
All right.
An archaeologist opens an Egyptian tomb and accidentally releases an evil spirit. His young daughter becomes possessed by the freed entity, and upon arrival back in New York, the gory murders begin. I chose this because it's going to throw you off, because most people hearing that probably think of a different film.
Okay, well, I know what I was thinking, and now that you said that, I'm not going to answer that. It is... I can see it in my head, because originally I was going to say The Exorcist. It's not The Exorcist.
That's why I chose this, because people are going to automatically think it's The Exorcist, given that.
It's not The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
No, I'll give you 2 hints whenever you want them. They're like lifeline. No, I'll make it 3 because they're like lifelines.
Okay, so I got 30 seconds. So give me the first lifeline.
First lifeline is this film came out in 1982.
Give me one more.
Second lifeline, I will tell you this director is an Italian director. I'm not going to give you his name, but he's one of the big ones.
It's Fulci. It's a Fulci. Okay. It's a Fulci McNulci. I know the film. I'm trying to think of it. Is it
You've got like 15 seconds.
I know what this is. This is Manhattan Baby.
Yep, there you go.
I know what this is. Yeah.
Yep.
I know what that was.
I chose that specifically because I knew reading that everyone listening was going to be like, it's The Exorcist.
Yeah.
It's The Exorcist.
Yeah. That was my initial thought.
Joke's on you.
Yeah. Manhattan Baby.
Fulci coming in with the left hook.
Yeah. And that was a good one too, because that's a lesser known movie from, like mainstream. Yep. So good question.
So go check out Manhattan Baby.
Yep. Well, Justin, that about wraps this one up, wouldn't you say?
I'd say so.
All right. Well,
yeah.
Let me do the outro this time. You get to do it every time.
You got it. You got it.
Creeps, we appreciate you guys for listening, sticking with us for an hour and a half plus if you did. And so you can follow Black Mass Films. You can follow at Cinema Creep Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Justin, you got any social media to plug real quick?
So on Twitter, I am HorrorDad13, and on Instagram, Dawn of the Living Dad.
Yep.
And yeah,
myself, I am at Drucifer. That is DREWX for straight edge, CIFER. Drucifer as in Lucifer, everywhere, across everything. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.